My name is Celeste, and this is my response to Carlos Roca on why immigration should be added to. One of the first points was that the U.S. population is rising too far, but in actuality, the U.S. birth rate is falling really rapidly, and we actually need to bring in immigrants to fill up the space, or else we're gonna have too old of a population and not a young enough population to support us and the infrastructure of the U.S. Um, Another thing was that undocumented immigrants commit a lot of crime here, but actually, undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit crime than a normal citizen. He used statistics from Arizona. I couldn't find them on the internet. I was looking for them, but I found statistics from Texas, and a citizen is 40% more likely to commit a crime than an undocumented immigrant. And another study at the Cato Institute found that undocumented immigrants were 40% less likely to be incarcerated than a citizen. Um, Another thing that would really deter illegal immigrants from committing any crimes is that any crime, basically whatsoever, basically commits in deportation as soon as they found you are undocumented, and as soon as like even a minor thing like driving without a license or just a traffic stop, like maybe one of your lights wouldn't work and the police alerted you to it. um, and if they find out you're undocumented, oftentimes it will result in deportation. And many undocumented immigrants, basically they don't want to risk anything for the life they already built after taking such a big risk to come to this country. Another thing is laws such as SB 1070 have made it even more risky to break any laws as undocumented immigrants, because especially because of the inherently racist aspect of SB 1070 here in Arizona. If a police officer had suspicion that you were undocumented, they could stop you and ask you for your identification, and they made it so that immigrants would have to carry their papers to show that they belonged here. And it basically was just it was inherently racist because they found that disproportionate numbers of Hispanic men and women were stopped. um, and then a number of these types of laws also passed across other states, and it basically just made it even more risky to commit any crimes or even try and break any type of law. Like there's also the argument you brought up that illegal immigrants are you said like something in like the hundred, in like I forgot the number, but it was for the incarceration rates, and I looked up the incarceration rates, and per there was like 1,470 out of 100,000 um, normal U.S. citizens were more like in the penitentiaries and the jails and all that, and they were incarcerated. And then there was only 87,000 illegal immigrants. And you have to take into consideration that when like laws such as SB 1070 passed, a lot of them disproportionately affected um, illegal immigrants because there are many people of color, and it's just an easier way to identify them. There was like Arpaio and his tent city, in which basically like any little thing and you'd be put in there and you'd be incarcerated. Um, and it was basically a ton of frivolous circumstances that did that. Um, Also, you also mentioned how illegal immigrants cost like, I think I forgot the statistic, but I saw a similar one. Like it was like 150 billion, 157 billion, 116 billion, and they cost that much in the government. But I also looked up all the studies that pointed to that much, and I found out that they inflated it by they included the kids of illegal immigrants, and those kids are citizens, but they justified it by saying that it doesn't matter because they're still related to illegal immigrants and it's their impact. But those kids, since they are citizens, they are eligible for all the programs in this country. So they put on all the cost of that into their statistics. They also overinflated the cost. They overinflated the cost per person of undocumented immigrants to of what they receive or like at any time, and they also overinflated by like I think more than a million the number of undocumented immigrants in this country. Also, another I found other statistics that they basically take the number of like the aid programs that the children of immigrants are that they can attain, but they don't include like the taxes they pay into or the or statistics that across the board, most children of immigrants go on to be successful and pay back basically what they took in programs, and they didn't include that statistic. So it was there was a study done by the Cato Institute that placed the actual toll of undocumented immigration at 3.3 to 15 billion, and most of that is already made up in immigrants paying up to 7 billion into social security, and then paying their taxes and paying into other programs that they are not eligible to take from, because once again, if you are an undocumented immigrant, you can't there's no way that you can get government aid. Um, and then I did agree the border should be way more secure because it will stop trafficking, it will stop the drugs from coming through. It will also stop a lot of immigrants that go into the border to try and cross. A lot of them will die because they cannot survive. Like without the food or water, they become lost in the desert, and that will just help them in general. Also, the border just needs to be more secure because as a country, we do need to know who's coming in. But there are undocumented immigrants that have been here for years, that have assimilated, they've learned the language, they've been here, they've lived here, they've built their lives, they become successful, and to rip that all away from them, or at least not give them a chance to become citizens and pay like their full amount, I guess, and just like be able to just being successful in this country. And I do think that there should be some form of vetting system, because not all of them came through ethical means, maybe not all of them have led an ethical life here, but some of them have contributed to this country, and I think it should be recognized. Um, and then also, so to become a citizen, you already have to pass a civics test, and you do have to learn English, even though it is not the official language of the U.S. The customs and traditions will come naturally as you come here, but they do have to remember their culture. And undocumented immigrants are already hard workers, and they pay into several programs that they cannot benefit from. And many studies have also found that legalizing them will only stimulate our economy more than they're already paying into, as programs such as Social Security and other government programs that are supposed to help you upon retirement or when you need aid, um, they're already not meeting their quotas basically. So the money that undocumented workers pay into it, it basically helps it, because currently like the normal citizens that pay into it aren't paying enough into it for it to be successful. And that's basically it. If I stuttered, it's because I have a stutter. I'm sorry.